and welcome to part 2. In this part we focus on materials, working with UV maps and lighting the scene with the Cycles render engine. It's quite a long ride, but after watching this part you're already working on the factory. So let's get started. And welcome to part 2 of this course, what is all about working with materials and lighting in the scene. So we have to dive into render engines and materials with textures. So there's quite a lot of things to do, but part 2 is the most essential of this course. If you're able to follow all the things I'm explaining here, you will be able to make this factory as it's displayed in the previews. No matter what, because I'm explaining like all the details, how lighting works, some more advanced modeling techniques to improve the scene. And that's like all the things we need. So let's dive into part 2 and have some fun. So at first, I like to focus on the render tab. Currently, it says Eevee, that's the render engine. A real-time render engine, and it's the default. So as soon as you open Blender, it's right there. If we click it, we have Workbench. Workbench is used when you shape your object and you want to have some soft lighting so you can see your model in a good way without all the textures. That's not really what we want. And we have Cycles. Before I jump into Cycles, we're going to use Cycles. I just want to give a brief explanation about what Eevee is and why it's the default. So if you start Blender and you just want to create a simple scene like this room and you want to have quick light calculations, Eevee is doing a very decent job because it's real time. And let's show you how it works. So first we're going to the material preview, and it shows a white room. We left click on the room, we go to the material tab that says round, circle or sphere, and it shows material and it's white. So in solid it's just gray like everything, but materials give you a preview in the viewport without fancy light. It's just very diffused light. You can see some shadows going on. That has to do with the world settings. I'll come there in a second, but it doesn't have anything to do with the light source we have in the scene. I can just move this, nothing happens. So to see what Eevee is doing, and I'm trying to give like a simple explanation without going advanced, we have to go to render. So render is the effect of the light sources in the scene. Light sources are the light, like this lamp, and we have to go to this world, this gray color. So if we move the lamp and we fade away, it's having less impact and it's not so bright. So if we move it closer, like this, it has way more impact. So as you can see, it has impact on the light streaks in the room, but there is not really a reflection. So in normal life, when a light source hit the ground, it's bouncing everywhere and it's casting some light on the wall. But it's not happening in the default settings of Eevee. Of course, I will show you that it's just a simple click, like if you enable this tab, ray tracing, what's I think still faking how the light is bouncing. You can see how it looks like. Way more inviting, and we can now see the white color. And if we go to the environment light, it's now light like gray. We make this more white. It looks more inviting how we want that. So you maybe ask yourself, why not using Eevee if it's like so super simple and you can work with it? For small scenes, it's like the way to go. I think I should work with it myself, but as soon we get into bigger scenes like the factory or like large environment scenes, Eevee has challenges. You have to optimize your scene with a lot of baking and hacking, faking. And what I like to do in the beginner course is not focusing on how to in a technical way get your scene looking good, but more in how we change the shape and use the lights.
That's not how I like to use Eevee for this. Still, it's a very powerful real-time engine, but we're not going to use that. So instead, we're changing this to cycles. And you maybe think, well, if cycles is so powerful, why is there so much noise in the scene? And that's a good question. That has to do with some settings. Eevee is by default doing some denoising, but with some simple tweaks, we can get a crispy, clear image in cycles. The first thing I like to change is the light source. We're not working with a light, it's a lamp. And a lamp, I just want to show you, has, if you just move it away, you can see less impact in the scene. So we remove this and we're clicking on the camera light and add light sunlight. So I like to go to the front view, pressing 1 on my numpad, rotating this like this. And it doesn't matter if it's like so or so, just rotate it. And rotate it, I'm now in the top view and rotating this in another direction, like so. And we go to the camera, hitting 0, and we render. So maybe rotating, I'm just pressing R and just moving my mouse to have a bit more impact in the scene. And you can see the impact from this window right here, over here, and the other two over here. And these are casting more environmental light. So if we move the sun lamp just away, you can see it's still the same impact, but the lamp was having less impact. So that's a huge difference between sun and lamp source. So clicking on sun, I want to increase the intensity. So currently it's an intensity of 1, and I go for the max, just 10. And that will hit a lot of power into this room. You can see the sunlight is very bright here. We still have a lot of noise, and we're going to fix that in a second. So for now, I'm pretty happy what we have at this point. So I like to go to the render settings, and because we're in the viewport, we're not doing any rendering yet. That's way more powerful, takes more time. You can see the denoise is deactivated. So let's click it, and we can see we now get rid of all the noise in the scene, and it's looking much better. So Cycles is doing a very decent job. I like to go to the solid view or the material view. And because this room is fully white, it's not really inviting. I want to have a color for the floor, for the wall, and for the roof. So we go to the material tab, and currently it's just material. So let's make this wall. So, and it's solid white. And we create another material, and we call this floor, like this. So I want to apply the floor right there, but Blender has no idea how to do that on itself. So you have to do this. So now I have to make some explanation about how to apply a different material on a specific area. And we can do that by going to the edit mode. Currently it's the face selection mode, pressing 1. And I have to select the floor and attach this on the floor. So currently, if I do select, nothing is selected. If I do select on wall, it's selecting the room. So that's why it's full white. So let's change the color of the floor to a more brownish color, something like this. Yeah, you can just copy this code or just doing it yourself. It's not really important what kind of color. I just want to use something else. So we go to the front view, we go to the edit mode, wireframe mode, and I like to select the floor like this. And we click assign. So now these vertices are assigned to the floor. We go back to the camera and hit render, and we can see a brown floor. That's cool. So I want to have a separated material for the roof. And we do exactly the same. You can press A again, deselect, selecting the roof, and assign. So roof and wall still have the same material. I keep roof as white, but for wall, we can just change the color a little bit. Yeah, more yellowish. Okay. So render like this. So we have the roof, the wall, and the floor. And immediately it's changing the mood of the scene. Also because yellow has different reflections on all the other meshes on the room. It's different. So this is just plain colors. And I like to work with textures. And textures are just images projected on the mesh. So therefore, we now have to go to shading. So bang, here we are. So we have a room, we are in the material preview. I don't want to do this in a render. It will slow down everything. Instead, we work in the material preview. That's where it's created for. Shading comes with a lot of extra screens. And to be honest, this screen right here, I'll never use this. So what you can do in Blender is just hover there. You can see this plus, and then we left click and move this to the left. And then we have more viewport space like this. So we go to the material tab and go to floor, and we can see this node. This is a node, and it depends how this floor looks like. So we have sliders like the metallic. If we just make this fully 1, we have to go to render, and we have to make this 0. It's making it fully transparent. So this is like the core of the material, how it's displayed. And of course, we don't want to have this a metallic floor. We just want to make this 0 and put something in the base color to make it visual. And for this, we need textures. So for this course, you need textures and assets, and this is all packed in a free zip file that you can find on my Patreon. So you have to go to my Patreon page here. You can join for free, and then you have to find the post where I announce this course. You can download the zip file, and this includes all the files. So I'll show you how it works to extract the files. So here's the folder. What you need to do is right click, create a folder where you want. I've got factory, and you do extract. So you get all the files. So it includes the textures, the models, but also blueprints and camera tracks. It's really cool, and you can delete the zip file. So what you can also do is becoming a member. If you're going to be a member, you have access to the Discord server. You can share your work and ask questions, and you can download the 4K assets pack, what includes many more models on 4K resolution. Or you become a creator. You support me, and this way you get the Creating 3D Environments add-on, what has 4K video resolution and a rubble generator. So it also includes also future packs when I start adding more courses. So it's a really nice add-on. You can also find it on the Superhive market. The difference here is that once you buy it, you get lifetime support. You get to see some more information what this add-on is all about, how it works. You get some videos so you get an idea how to build a small scene with this add-on. It's pretty cool. Also how to install it. And yeah, some more information about the visuals, etc. All right, so one more thing. I just want to show you it in the viewport. So once you install it, this is the add-on. So you can just simply click on the pack you want to work. We're working with the factory. And you can pick if you want to see it in HD or 4K. It will download it on your PC, 4K resolution or HD. And from that point you can work. You have your material presets with all the materials available, but also props. Like if you want to fill your scene with props, they're all included and they are specific for this pack. So if once you select another course, you have all different props, which works really good. And there's this rubble generator, what is really useful when you want to fill your scene with rubble. So you can find out or fill in what kind of rubble you want, like a little bit of bricks or cable or glass. And then you're simulating this on a pile and baking this in a single mesh. And then you can scatter these around in your scene. So very useful. That's the add-on. And now back to the work in Blender. So we go to Add, Texture, Image Texture, and I want a laminate floor for the floor. So we go to Open, Floor, and we have a texture. So we start with the diffuse. It's just the plain color. And if we go to the material preview, we can see it's reflective. That's because the roughness needs to be back to something like 0.5. So here we have something on the floor, the laminate floor, but not how I want it. I want to have these vertically aligned and much smaller. And for this, we need to change the coordinates. And coordinates are something new. I haven't explained that, so that's what we're going to do. Part 2 is all about materials and lighting, so this is important. UV editing. So let's select the bottom and we go to this tab, UV editing. And now you can see all these vertices are from the mesh, and we only selected the bottom. And by default, it's just sort of unwrapping it on its own way. But because we changed size, this is still from the default cube, we have to bring this back to a normal size. So I like to select everything, Control L, and make a new projection. We're pressing U on the keyboard, and we have all kind of options to make a new UV map. And you maybe wonder, there are so many options. Which one is the best? Well, we can just say which not the best. Project from view is just the viewport we have right now. So it's not the best projection because we have just one side. A sphere projection, it's pretty weird because this is not a sphere, it's not a cylinder. Cube projection is the one we want to use because it's just projection from all the sides. Then we also have the smart UV or unwrap angle based. These are very powerful as well, but not for the purpose we're working on. So we do the cube projection. And what is important if you do this is that you check if the scaling is still set on 1. If this is not 1, so you press N to open this tab, you have to select your mesh and press Ctrl A and do the scaling. And it's setting this, resetting this back to 1. So you now have all these coordinates. You just want to have the floor, and it's still displaying the other coordinates. I don't want to see them. So what you do is click these arrows and you have your floor selected. So we go to the material preview, we see the floor, we rotate this. In this window we press R, hit Ctrl, so we snap this, so we now have them vertically aligned, and we press S to scale them. So it depends a little bit on your taste, how big or how small you want to have them. I want something like this. Okay, pretty good, pretty nice. So we go back to the shading because we're not finishing yet. We have more textures. And I can imagine if you're new to Blender, you think, well, we already have something on the floor. Why should we have something else as well? So when we go to rendering, like this, and for example, we put this to 0, we have a very reflective floor. If we put this all the way up to 1, it's very diffuse, so it's not causing any reflection. But the floor, like a realistic floor, it depends what kinds of areas are reflective and what are not. And to make that work, we have a specific texture, and that's called the roughness map. It's a black and white map. Black represents reflection and white does not reflect. So the seams are more white and the planks are more black, but on the black are even different areas of black and white. So we're selecting this one and we want to put this into the roughness and change color space. It's a little bit technical, but that's like, what kind of image do you have? Well, this is not a color image, it's just a black and white, so make non-color. And now I can show you the effect of this map. So currently we do not have environment light, so I hope that the sunlight is doing enough. If we just put it out, it's just slightly visible, so we have to add some environment light to demonstrate this in a good way. We'll do this after the projection or the setting of the floor. We duplicate the roughness, and I want to add a normal map. Normal map is like faking because we're not making real planks. The transition between the planks and all the details on the laminate. So it's faking a sort of depth in the plank. So you cannot put a color into the normal map because this is a color output and this is a vector output input. You have to use a transition node, displacement, and normal map. That's it, nothing else. You have to select this purple DX. And we're putting this right there. It's a non-color image. And then you're putting it right there. So in the current setup, it's hard to see the effect. But if I put this like to an extreme value, you can see what it is doing. It's just faking the effect. We just want to have a small value. And as soon we do better lighting in the scene, you will see like the real effect. So I was talking about environmental light. It's still using this gray color. So in fact, what it's doing, if you look outside, you have like a plain gray sky, and that's reflecting on our room. That's not realistic. So how can we change that? If we select this yellow dot, we can see a whole list of settings. We're using a sky texture for this part too. In the factory, we start working with environment texture. That's like a real photo-based sky dome. But for this tutorial, sky texture is fine. If we do rendering, you can see it's just transformed this. So without, if you just remove this, it's look like this is the default. And if we go to sky texture, it's just bouncing a lot of skylight and an extra sun disk. We don't want that. And still, I don't really like this new sky, procedural sky. Normally, I use the pre-tam. It's a more softened, and it doesn't come with its own built sunlight. And for a tutorial, it's perfect. It's exactly what I need. So we're using this procedural sky and some blue and nice transition to like brownish. All right, and this has a huge impact on the scene. So you can try to rotate your sun lamp a bit more to just find a balance. Not doing that. What I'd like to do is now focusing on the wall texture. So we're selecting the mesh and press A, and you have to double tap, I guess. We go to the material tab, wall, and do the selection. So only the wall is selected. And we go to UV editing. And what I'd like to do is just make it a little bit larger. So, and then we go to shading. And I want to add a texture on the wall. So currently it's just using this yellowish color. We do exactly the same as the floor. Image texture, open. And I want to have this beige wall, the base color. And I want to have the roughness, not the disp, but the roughness. And at the displacement, normal map goes right straight away, and we have to select that one, non-color, and putting it right there. And we take a look, we can now see a texture of the wall right here. And I was a little bit too fast with scaling the UVs because otherwise it was looking like very small. I want to select the wall. So just to demonstrate, it was very small, and I just made it a little bit bigger, like this. Okay, cool. Shift, scroll, or go to shading tab, so we have way more space. And we hit render, and it looks like this. So we have floor material, we have like the plain white material, and that's going very well. So currently, the room is a little bit empty. I'm not adding any props, but I'm missing sort of a border for the floor and a border for the windows that makes the room a bit more attractive. So what I will demonstrate is to improve or add some more details. But after we've done that, we also have to fix some textures. I'm doing this on purpose because this is what's happening all the time when you work on texturing and modeling. So what I'd like to start with is adding an edge line. Control R, left click. We're selecting Shift Alt left click. I don't want to go too fast, so you Alt left click, Shift Alt left click. We go to the front view, and what I'd like to do is press SX, and we're moving these to the sides. This will break your floor. That's fine. I'm doing this on purpose. So I also want to have an edge line on the other side. So I'm trying to find my way. You can do this on the bottom as well. You have to feel comfortable with navigating in your viewport. Shift Control R, and we're putting this right there. So we now just want to know if this looks correct. No, I just want to have this be squared. I double tapping GG, and now I can move it. And my screencast is having a break. That's fine. I think when changing tab, it's just taking a nap or something like that. That's all fine. So now we have like this border, but it doesn't really do anything. We just have extra vertices. So I would like to go to the face selection mode, left click. And another sort of short key is holding Control, left click, and you have selected this whole line of faces, doing exactly the same. Control, left click, and Control, left click. And what I'd like to do now is, first I'm doing this the wrong way and then doing it the good way. If we press E, we making the border. But the problem is that it's not merging with the wall. So this is not the way I should do that. Control Z, yeah, okay, you have to check if it's not extruded. I like to do Alt E and extrude manifold. So if you do this like this, just a very small border, don't do it too extreme. It's now merged with the wall. It's looking nice. And I like to add a separated material for the border. And we're keeping it solid white and making a roughness value of 0.1. So it's more like shiny border. In tab or edit mode, you can see it's still selected. And I want to also select the other selection. So Shift left click. And now you can press Control left click, Control left click, and here as well. And assign. And if we go to the render tab, render, look at that. We now have a very nice border on our match or in our room. All right, pretty good. I want to do the same for the windows. So currently these are, we have windows, but I want to add sort of a border in the window. So how we do that is press Ctrl R and adding an edge line for every window. Here and there and right there. We go to the face selection mode, press 3, left click, select one face and Control left click, so you can select multiple at once, and Shift left click, Control left click for all the windows. You can't do Control left click right now because everything is selected. Control Z, you repair, Shift left click, and then you can do Control. Okay, it's doing that way, Shift left click. And for the others as well, Shift left click, and that one, we're doing a great job. So, how does the border work? What we will do is do a sort of extrude. If we just do extrude, we're doing it the wrong way and then we're doing it a good way. It's extruding on a vertical axis the bad way. So that's not how we want to do that. Control Z. Control Z. Okay. What I like to do is doing this so all the windows have exactly the same border. So we press Alt E, extrude faces along normals. And now look at that, looking way better. So you can make it very extreme. I don't want to make it extreme, something like this will do. So these are small. And I like to give these borders the same material as the borders on the ground. So we're selecting these in the side view, in the face selection mode. I like this. And the front view can be a little bit hard to see, but now I've selected everything. Border, assign. We go to the camera view and we render to check if it's all right. And now you can see the windows have nice looking borders. So the question is, are we finished? Well, not really. I just want to add a bit more advanced lighting, so that will help you when starting on the factory, where we will add separated lights, and it's not totally new to you. So in the room, click Scene Objects. I like to add a new cube. Go to the front view, and we're going to make that one much smaller. So as Control, we're snapping this to 2 blender grids. In the edit mode, go to vertice selection mode, selecting the right side, G, Control, and snapping it to the right. And the bottom, snapping that one to that. In object mode, you're moving it right to the wall. Like we have to find something, a level that fits. So it's very important that it's just attached right there. Okay. So we click new, a new material, and we call this lamp, like this, and making this reddish color. What do we also add? Light. Okay. And we don't want to use the principled BSDF shader. We delete it, and we go to Add, Shader, and using an emission. And this shader is casting light on itself if we put this in the surface. So currently it's just using the lamp. So we go to this view, render, just having a red lamp. So from the front view, we go to the wireframe, edit mode. I like to add an edge line, release it, holding G, Control, snapping this to the top, selecting the top, go to light and assign. And now if we hit render again, we have like a little bit of light casting. You can increase it like so. And I like to change a more warm tint. Okay. So you can just move this, we shouldn't do that in the viewport, a little bit more downwards. It's up to you where you like to put your lamp. But what is important, I like to duplicate this lamp, but I just want to have one slider to change all the lights in the scene. So if we do Shift D, we can duplicate an object, but then we have to change each light individual for the intensity. I don't like that. So instead of using Shift D, we're using Alt D. And we're moving this, holding Control, so it's snapping on the blender grids. R, Control, looking like that. We're putting it right there. So you can see this blender grid. So that's like a sort of indication where I want it. Alt D, same here. And Shift, that's not what I want. Alt D, Control, rotate on the wall. So in fact, I now should have more lights and rendering. And now we have nice looking lamps in the scene. I'm missing like a main lamp on the top. So look, I had to name these like lamp. Very important. Now I have to do this all individually, or so it's a mistake. No, 04, and I have to. So this is proper. So I go to Add, Mesh, Cylinder. There we go. I like to scale this downwards. So something like this. It's a pretty big lamp. We're putting this on the top. In edit mode, we're selecting the bottom, and I want to have 2 blender grids and putting an edge line in the middle. We're using the same lamp material and the light, and we're selecting the bottom and assign this. So look, if we have this in the middle, yeah, camera view, render. So we have like a lamp at the top. Looks good to me. So we're almost finished with this material light part. There are 2 things I still like to add to finalize this. One is adding windows. The reason I'm putting this in the end of this lecture is that the default glass window in Blender is not really doing what I want, so I have to do a little bit of math, but you can forget this immediately because I don't want to bore you with that. So, but yeah, just to finalize this part is essential because we have some nice window reflections. So I'm adding a plane. We can now call this window and putting these as far as you can, like there. So that's good. Making it as Z a little bit smaller, as X, like this. Control A, scale. Go to edit mode, Shift D, Control, and we're rotating it. And putting it to the other side, just check if it's covering the whole area, and that's exactly what it's doing. Shift D, putting it right there. And Shift D again, and you cannot simply putting it right there. You have to rotate it, otherwise you have flipped normals. And I will show you how that looks. Especially for glass, it's not good. So we have now windows. If we render this, it looks we only have light from the light sources right here and from the exterior because we have a hole inside. So we have to add a window shader like this. We go to delete the principal BSCF and add a shader, a glass. And if you put it in the surface, what I was hoping to expect, and I know it's not happening, that you still have your light source casting light streaks through the windows. You can see a little bit, but it's doing a very poor job. So if we press H, we have the light casting. Alt H, they're back, and it's not. And it's now sort of breaking. So how can we fix this? We have to mix the glass shader, and this is why I still added this in the scene, because we're now going to mix the material, and that's a little bit part of this course. We have to mix this with a transparent shader, and then doing a little bit of math, which you can forget immediately because it's not important to make it work. So we go to add, or we go to first to the material preview or solid, add input, add shader, mix shader, right there. So now you can mix shaders, that's really nice, and a transparent. So we're putting that right there, and we put render again. Yeah, it's like doing it half ways. So 50% reflections and 50% transparency. So I want to do something with a light to have the best of both. So we're adding a light path like this. This is technically, but it contains all the settings of the light in the scene. So I also want to have a math node. You can forget all of this. This is just to fix the windows, and we will not use these type of windows in the course. So the first thing is shadow ray. That one goes on the top, and the other one is reflection ray, that one. And you can put this as a sort of a mask between these two, and now you get the best of both. Right, nice. So in fact, we're done because we have the windows, we have the lamps, we get the textures, we're almost all set. But there is one thing, is that we broke the UVs on the floor, because if we take a look, we can see big planks, small planks, and that's because we added these borders. So floor, I just want to select the floor, and we do now from the top a projection from view. UV editing, it's now not good. You can just go to the laminate floor, rotate it and scale it, and now the floor should be back to normal. Maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, that's great. That's super great. Render, exactly how I want it. So be aware that if you add edge lines on a texture, it will break the UVs. Great. So what is left is making a render of the scene, and then finalize this part and jumping to the real work in part number 3. So what I like to do before we go to rendering, I want to minimize the max samples to 1024. And we have a noise threshold. It's currently, well, let's keep that. We just render it. Here we go. So it's currently using the CPU. Yeah, that's much slower than the GPU. So what I'd like to do is just cancel this and change this to GPU. There we go. We have to wait for when it's finished, and it's really calculating fast. But yeah, we have to wait. And this is something specific for cycles that you have render times. Eevee is like straight away, bang, you have your render. Cycles need some calculation. But there are some ways to improve the speed. So we currently are around almost 30 seconds. And then it's doing the denoising. Almost 30 seconds and we have the render. So what I like to do is, we're just closing this render tab, is increasing the noise threshold. So it's spending less attention to trying to fix the noise, where it's increasing the render speed a lot. And when we go to the rendering tab, if we look at everything, all the corners are looking so like hard and straight. So there's not realistic reflections going on in this room. Something to take care of. And there is something that works so good to fix this. That's adding a little bit of bevel. So you go to this modifier tab. So modifiers are things you can add to improve your scene, your mesh in a very fast way without doing this all by hand. We're adding a bevel. So the default value is like 0.1 meter. That's way too much. I like to decrease it to 0.05, like this, and 0.005. What was it? No, that's too small. Or yeah, I think that's the one I needed. 0.005, very small detail. Object shade smooth. And we go, no, I don't want to do the shade smooth, just using the shade flat and doing a new render. So here we go. And it should render much faster because we're taking less attention on the noise. So it's now rendering in 10 seconds instead of 30 seconds. So the bevel, why was it needed? Look, if you take a look at the borders, they're now casting some little bit of light reflections. And it's the same over here. And these little reflections make it look so much better, that it's more inviting, more realism. And it's just one modifier. All right. So as a little extra to finalize this demo scene, I like to add a sphere. I have to move my recording screen, add mesh UV sphere, making it smaller. You may think, what are you doing? I just want to add a red color, totally red, totally, and reduce the roughness to 0. And duplicate it and moving it to the other side and making this, Control Z. First we have to make this unique and then green. And we go to this, we make it smooth, object shade smooth. And we go for a render. So here we go. You maybe wonder, why are you adding these spheres? Well, it's like to finalize the scene and show the beauty of cycles, how these reflections work and how realistic the light bounces work in the scene, and there are no glitches at all. Cycles is so superior in calculating the light in a realistic way that it's like the engine you want to use for realistic rendering. And these spheres, because they are so bright and colorful, they're casting all the colors and reflections, and a white color is doing that differently. So it's just finalizing the scene. And if you came to this point, you did a really great job, because you're now ready to do the real work for the factory. And all the techniques I introduced by adding the borders, the window borders, but also like adding a modifier and changing like some UVs, all these techniques, I made these mistakes sort of on purpose. So we find our way in the factory to make the scene looks good. So you made it so far, and you're now ready to do the factory work in part number 3. We will make the factory hall, only the modeling, and then we move to the materials and we start adding objects and making a nice looking room. So thanks for watching this beginner course, and let's move to part number 3. Bye bye.